Along with individual experts, Surgeon Masters brings you life improvement strategies in 10 minutes. These proven principles and strategies are easy to learn and can be applied immediately, allowing you to practice your best. Here's your host, Jeff Smith.
On this episode of the Surgeon Masters mini podcast, I have with me orthopedic surgeon, doctor of education, and a retired 20-year Navy veteran, Marlene DeMaio. Welcome, Dr. DeMaio.
Thanks for having me.
So, Marlene, I appreciate that we noticed recently that we have a common interest in some topics about physician wellness. Tell me a little bit about how you came to that interest.
Well, it was twofold. The first was when I had the wonderful experience working with residents. And I learned so many things about their challenges because, when you're a resident, you're focused on getting through the day and taking care of your own self and, filling in if someone is sick or whatever. But as a educator, teacher, I just saw so many things that were affecting them and their performance that we could intervene and help them with because they were environmental things or stress-related things. So that was number one. And the most amazing example was a young man who was in his field when I was in the Navy, Officer of the Year in that field as a junior officer, decided to come into medicine, was intern of the year at a very difficult institution, and then he was failing in ortho and no one could figure it out. Long story short, I heard a few things about him through the grapevine, like people needing to call him in the morning, and I saw him fall asleep at conferences and such. And I chatted with him. He had a sleep apnea workup and he had sleep apnea. He was profoundly sleep deprived. But once that was taken care of, an incredible turnaround. Other times, in my own particular case, it takes several years to figure it out, and there's multiple factors. I was going through this process of being unwell and trying to work when I was President Ruth Jackson and COVID hit, and I was very worried because I had read these studies that underrepresented minorities, women, and people of color, sometimes with the stress of that whole situation, can be sadder, more depressed. And we had a couple of webinars on wellness and burnout and identifying the difference between sadness and suicidality. And I think everyone will agree that there's a huge number of social pressures, professional pressures, patient pressures, tech pressures on doctors, besides all the pressures we put on ourselves to be, getting that A+ every day for every patient that we see.
But it sounds like what your interest is and how you reached out is a little bit of a paradigm shift, that when you began training, when you were going through many parts of your career, these conversations were likely not occurring.
Yes. I, for example, needed a crown because one of my teeth just chipped. And you would have thought I was asking to join NASA and get on a Skylab mission. It was incredible trying to schedule that. And so, yes, surgeons are tough. It's a physical job. We do go to work sick. We do work sick. And we never talked about that. It was a huge paradigm shift from when, I trained in the last century, but we still have it this century because, residents have a hard time scheduling things they need to do. You need regular medical follow-up. You need regular dental follow-up. Having been in the military 20 years, that's something we do well because we want people to be as healthy as they possibly could be while they're active duty. But it seems so variable at educational sites and group practice sites, academic institutions, and I think we can do much better.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been a champion to continue to advocate for that because you and I both agree that that paradigm shift is not enough. It's just a new raised awareness. So tell us a little bit more about your denial and your revelation.
I was very honored to be the chief of the surgical department for a Navy deployment in the Persian Gulf. And while we were there were 3 major sandstorms that affected our unit. So much so that you really couldn't see in front of you. You couldn't drive a car. You certainly couldn't do any air ops. Helicopters, ambulances were grounded. Also in that area, there were not burn pit fires, but oil fires and just a lot of pollution. To the Navy's credit, they did send people to interview and look at the hospital detachment before us because a number of them were sick, including myself with recurrent bronchitis, sinusitis, ear infections. The Navy did look into it. They didn't find anything that looked like, sabotage or bioterrorism or anything. And then they did follow us when we came home. And frankly, I thought it might have been related to the anthrax vaccine. I was wrong. Once I got back, I had continued to have a number of problems. A year and a half after coming back, I had a lot of sinus and ear problems and absolutely horrible vertigo, which lasted for 8 months. And they couldn't figure out what it was from at that point. I was not able to operate when I came back. Then things just got progressively worse. Every year, I seemed to develop another medical disorder that was, in retrospect, symptomatically treated. Like no overwhelming diagnosis. I don't have lupus, but I would say everybody knows lupus in orthopedics, and, it's the great masquerader. And so finally it's like, oh my gosh, lupus, and everything's explained. So that didn't happen till 10 years. The tipping point was 3 pneumonias in a row and having a lot of difficulty breathing. And so got the workup, got the diagnoses, got the treatment, and started a different type of career because this happened right before COVID. And so the timing of it was unfortunate for me because it was difficult to go back with some of the disorders that I had after COVID to get back in the operating room. So I used my GI Bill and got a doctorate of education and embarked on other things. And so what I learned from that was if I had been aware, just like if no one's ever taught you about lupus, you can't identify it. If I had been aware of some of the things that you've put forward and some of your approaches, things would have probably gone differently.
What else would you want our listeners to take away and start integrating as take home?
The first thing is sometimes I think when a doctor sees another doctor, it can be hard for both parties. I've noticed that sometimes there's that there, but for the grace of God go I, meaning the doctor who's seeing you may have trouble taking care of doctors. The second thing is, emphasis, highlight, underline, a podcast that you had about buddy system. And in the military, we have a battle buddy for many reasons, many of them very different. But the bottom line is it's somebody who you trust implicitly. And I would say they're going to catch you before you start falling. They're going to grab you or tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I've noticed this or I've noticed that. And you have that bond. You really need that person. They don't necessarily have to be at work, but you got to have exposure to them and you got to trust them. And sometimes that is hard for surgeons. You can't be objective about yourself. That's the other reason why you need it. This person, we don't treat ourselves as patients and we can't treat our family as patients because we can't be objective. That person needs to be that little assessor friend for you. And then the other thing that I learned was check in with yourself. If something is not right, then if you can figure it out, make your plan. And if you can't figure it out, go to your buddy.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you, Marlene.
You're most welcome. I really appreciate the opportunity to, be here. And if people want to talk to me, I'm happy to do so.
That's fantastic. We'll share that information with them in the written portion of our release. There you have it. This is Jeff Smith, along with Marlene DeMaio. Until the next episode of Life Improvement Strategies for the Surgeon Who Wants More. Ciao.
Now, take 10 minutes and put your plan into action to practice your best.